They make the trek out to Burning Man for a week and a day. After a lot of work, oh, there's a lot of play. Party, 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 drama, 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 bitch, bitch, bitch. Year after year, they come back to scratch that itch. They all say their lives have been changed. After many years, lives have been rearranged. That change is what this show is all about. You'll see the impact of Burning Man up and out. So sit back, relax, and cancel all your plans. These are the stories about the shadow of the man.
Hello, and welcome to the Shadow of the Man Show. I am your host, Andy. Goodness, it's that Andy. Today, our guest is Katy Tahja. That's how I pronounce it, right? Tahja?
Yes.
Hi. Well, welcome to the show. So what was your first year? And what got you to go to Burning?
2012. And it was almost a family tradition in that my sister had gone for a decade. My daughter had gone. They both encouraged me to go, but I am on crutches and I had certain limits. And if I wanted to go, I wanted to be in the center of everything. And that's how I found Mobility Camp. But also, I'm an eternally curious person. And I had thought that Burning Man was something maybe that I'd do once in my life. It was in 2012, and I haven't did it since, except for the pandemic, and have developed a second family at Burning Man.
Oh, excellent. Wow. So you said your sister and daughter, like if this is in 2012, they'd been going for 10 years at that point?
My daughter went a couple of times. My sister had been going at least 10 years before that, I think. Part of the Renaissance Fair, Oregon Country Fair crew of people that love festivals. And I learned to love it too.
Do the two of them are they still going?
Nope. My daughter went with me 1 year, and then she started having children, which eliminated going to Burning Man.
Yeah.
But I took over the family responsibility of being the face at Burning Man. Took my husband once. He did not enjoy it. There were things he would rather be doing. So I have gone with a succession of younger people over the years.
And
now my son comes with me.
Oh, all right. How long has he been going?
This will be his third year. He's 47 years old, so he started late. Though I was in my 60s when I started, so I was a late starter too for going to Burning Man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing about Burning Man. I think there's always been like every type of person of every size and age and color. I mean, it's not a party exclusively for young people.
Yeah, and I found that a lot of times, and more than once in my experience over the years, sometimes it gives people comfort to have a grandma to talk to. Maybe you don't have a grandma in your life anymore. Maybe you're having a miserable day and you just need a hug. Maybe a cup of iced tea on a hot day being offered to you is something that hasn't happened for years. But some people like to have a grandma around.
Oh yeah. So when you first went, were you was there a mobility camp back in 2012?
There was. There
Okay.
has been. There has always been an awareness on the playa that there are people who are not going to be able to pedal 3 miles across the playa on their bicycle under their own steam. That they're going to need a hand to get out and go experience things. So starting way before I first came in 2012, there were a camp called Hot Wheels. There were camps previous to that, but we developed the sideline along with having motorized vehicles that could take people out to see the art of passing out things like wheelchairs and crutches and walkers, because while the Ramparts Medical Center We'll fix you up if you tripped over a tent stake in the dark and broke your ankle. They don't have crutches. They don't have
Really?
wheelchairs. They don't have things to pass out to people. So we took over the job of having portable medical equipment that we could pass out to people. Then also because we were in the center of everything, when mobility devices need a charging, if you have an electric wheelchair or something like that, you're going to have to figure out how to charge it. And we provide charging for medical equipment for people that are on the playa.
Oh, that's incredible. So how big is Mobility Camp now?
We vary between 40 to 60 people.
Wow.
We have a minimal amount of we have a shade structure that the Burning Man organization puts up for us. We have a community kitchen. Uh, we have a handicap porta potty in the back, which we really appreciate. And we have had everything from 3-year-olds to late 80s, I think, in our camp. We have had people with every conceivable kind of disability, and we've had regular old able-bodied people that just want to lend a hand.
Wow, that's incredible. So are you like involved in like organizing the camp or like a
We
volunteering?
have
Like what was your
I think like any organized camp at Burning Man, we have what we consider core jobs. And my job is to keep a desk staffed at the front of camp. So if you come out of ramparts because you've just tripped over that tent stake and broken your ankle, you're going to find somebody with a smiling face that says, "Hi, what can we do for you?" May we loan you a piece of mobility equipment? Would you like to go out on a curated art tour of the playa? Because we have a trailer with bench seats shaded with wheelchair tie downs down the middle of it.
Hmm.
And 3 times a day, we take people out onto the playa to go see the art. And it's not a curated tour, though the artery does come by and provide curated tours in handicapped accessible vehicles. Our tour is more like somebody told me about a bright, shiny thing over on the far side of the plaza by the trash fence, and it says love in letters 20 feet tall. Can you take me to go see that? I want my picture next to it. And so we'll go, great. Let's go find the shiny thing with letters 20 feet tall over by the trash fence, and we'll take your picture next to it. And then somebody will say, oh, I want to go see XYZ. And so we'll take off and go see XYZ. Our tours are very flexible, where the artery, bless their heart, when they come by for their curated art tours, they have a designated number of places they go. The artists come out and explain their construction or their conception of what they're doing. They're very time oriented, and those are a different experience than our sort of footloose
Hmm.
and fancy street tours that we offer.
Ah.
The other thing that we've been doing that's really interesting is we've been working with blind burners. And with our most fascinating thing with blind burners last year was that given the ability to make something out of nothing nowadays, somebody created a three-dimensional model of the temple in, I don't know whether it was balsa wood. To me, it felt like balsa wood. It was probably some kind of plastic. But with your hands, you could feel the entire design of the temple. The thing was probably about 2 feet by 2 feet.
Oh
And then
wow.
a section lifted off the side so you could put your hand inside and feel what the inside dimensions of the temple would have looked like.
That's
I
incredible. That's a great idea.
it
Yeah.
was the things that you can make nowadays that you can share with people. We've had blind people working behind the counter at our contact desk where we talk to people because it's Burning Man, and one of the most frequently asked questions in center camp is where is the nearest porta potty? And so the blind people learned the locations of all the porta potties, and we said go talk to the gentleman at the edge of the table and he'll tell you exactly where to go.
Ah.
Um, but we've there are several camps of deaf people at Burning Man. The blind burners are getting more organized, and we have had people connected with us, the Make-A-Wish Foundation does a trip to Burning Man for somebody coming up to the end of their life who had a wish that they could always go to Burning Man. So we've had contact with those people. A variety of different people. Not every handicapped person on the playa stays at mobility camp. They're scattered all over the place, but they hear about us and they come by to say hi.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So are there dedicated camps for blind people? You said there's one for like deaf people, right?
Yeah. If I would guess if you Googled blind burners, you would find connections because the blind burners we're working with are from Britain. So
Really?
go figure. We are also an international camp. We have Aussies, we have Germans, we have British people. We've had people from all over the place, and we've had just an amazing collection of people over the years. Some of them are still with us, some of them are no longer with us, but everybody has a way to make a contribution. One of the things we do is because we're an interactive camp, we have a obstacle course. And our obstacle course you do either on crutches or in a wheelchair. And it is our way of showing people some of the things, it's some of the problems you can face at Burning Man in a wheelchair or on a pair of crutches. But if you complete our obstacle course, you get a round of applause and a stamp on your hand that says you're an honorary GIMP.
Oh, so this is for like able-bodied people then?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
that's a great
able-bodied
idea.
people can get an
Oh.
idea of what it's like to push a manual wheelchair through a dust pit.
I like
And
that.
some of the things we have frequently offered workshops on how to make your camp more mobility accessible because we
Ah.
had a lovely experience one time of a camp with a maze. There was a maze into the entrance of their camp, and it was a very cleverly constructed maze. And so they invited one of our camp members in a wheelchair to go through the maze. And lo and behold, when they got to the first turn, the people that built the maze said, "Oh," they said, "you can't turn a wheelchair around that corner." And we said, "Yes, that's true." And they go, "We need to redesign this." and, we go, and their plan was for next year when they did their mock-up and their work at their home base, they were going to make sure a wheelchair could make the turns in their maze to go through their little maze pattern. Another one that we dearly loved is a camp from New Hampshire that was remodeling a school bus to be a art car on the playa. The school bus happens to be named Fluffy, and it looks like a giant cloud. It is
They're from
painted.
Vermont, right?
Yeah, Vermont. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And they came to us at the planning stage and they said, it's going to have a wheelchair lift in it. Here's what we want to do. Here's what the dimensions look like. And we were talking to a man that was sitting down and he said, the designer, one of the designers, Wayne, and he said, well, the sides are going to be 40 inches high. And we said, are you sitting down in a chair right now? And he said, yeah. And I said, how high do you think your eyes are off the ground? And he said, oh my. He said, if I was sitting in a wheelchair, I couldn't see anything. And I said, you're absolutely correct.
Hmm.
They not only remodeled it so the sides are like 34 inches high, they put braille writing all along the edge. So those blind burners that I was talking about could learn more about the vehicle that they were riding on by rubbing their fingers over the braille explanations
It's
along the side.
incredible. That just it made me think of an idea. Like we were talking about that someone made like a mock-up of the temple so like blind people can, can touch it and feel it and, see it. Like, wouldn't that be amazing to have like a tactile Burning Man experience? Like, because I remember I was talking to some friends, I don't know, they were trying to think of like, I mean, they're like, oh, some business or something, and so they came up with the idea that, or my other friend came with the name of like, they're like, I'm gonna make dioramas of like people's camps, and I was like, oh, you mean like a playarama? Like, But like, I mean, that would be incredible. Like if you made like, oh, and here's the man, and this here's man base, and
Yes.
like, and you could have like different camps, isn't that, or even just like a map of the city, and just be
Oh,
like,
oh,
here are the streets, and here, like you said, like here are the porta potties, and you can kind of just like rub your hands, like
Andrew,
fingers
it's
over it.
been done for Braille.
Really,
For Braille, it's been done.
really,
Many years we have had Braille maps of the entire city, so you could
wow,
see all the street layouts. The trash fence was on it. The temple was on it. We don't get it every year because they're expensive to produce, and the camp wants to have it at their camp. But the creative things that people have done to make the playa more interesting. Uh, the one the one that we attempted one year that we didn't get, but we hope to do it sometime, is Thunderdome. Is to get some of our people in
what?
Thunderdome. We wanted to go to Thunderdome, right? But
How would that work?
oh, you have a person sitting in a wheelchair and you have the people at Thunderdome going, I don't know if we can swing this one off. But it makes people aware. I mean, our major goal with Mobility Camp is to say to people, so many times it's been so sad to us that people have come up and go, I didn't know you folks existed. I didn't
What?
know there was a camp like this. I had this friend of mine. I had my mother. I had, a buddy who always wanted to come to Burning Man, but the distances and being far away from everything and not knowing, the person has to use his CPAP machine at night and needs a place to plug it in. These people never came. And we say, we've dealt with quadriplegics on ventilators, on oxygen systems in our camp gleefully, right?
Yeah.
And they were a wonderful contribution to camp. So we've had people, we've had, college professors that teach about disability, all kinds of people who have been members of our camp for years, along with people who came by, were born with disability or got crunched in a car accident or something like that, and still want to participate at Burning Man. And we can show you how. And we can take you out to those things you never thought you'd get to go out and see, like the 20-foot letters that say love over by the trash fence or whatever. We go out and we find those things. We're always happy when videographers and journalists find us, because that is a way to spread the word about Burning Man. I got Burning Man into Nevada Magazine one time, and we've been in disability magazines and things like that, making people aware again that we exist. And we've now almost started what the org is calling a hub, because right next to us is an amazing woman named Goldie and the Chariot Project. And she was associated with our camp like maybe 10 years ago, and figured out that if you took two bicycle wheels and you put a seat in between it and two posts that came up and hooked on the back of a regular bicycle, that the regular person could pedal their bicycle, and you would tag along in your chariot that was added on to the end, stably onto the end.
Oh,
You could take your best friend anywheres in the playa you wanted to go. So that camp is right next to us with 20 chariots that they let go out during the days. Our camp is there for mobility issues. Blind Burners is behind us. So we're forming our own little nucleus of service camps that can help you if you need extra help or if you damaged yourself while you were on the playa.
wow. And so are you guys centrally located, like center camp or something?
We're always in center camp.
Okay.
We're always on this year we were next to Arctica. Um,
Ah,
so it's, we've been next to Lost and Found a lot of times, but we're in that center camp plaza area. And it makes, if somebody has damaged themselves and they need to come find us, it makes it easier to find us if we're in center camp and we're providing a service.
well, how do they get there? Like if they're
Yes,
coming from Rampart
no,
and it's like
it
my
will
leg is
be
broken. Like,
ramparts. We've we've had people break their leg, be medevac to Ukiah, excuse me, medevac to Reno, and they're back on the playa the next day. They figure out how to get back there because they're not about to lose their Burning Man experience because they broke their leg. And because the Black Rock Rangers are constantly circulating, taking care of people with problems, say you're at Ramparts, the medical center, they will pick you up and they will deliver you to mobility camp where we can see what we have available that we can loan out to you. And then you're on your way with your buddy pushing you and figuring out maybe you'll stop and make arrangements to get a chariot at the camp next to us. And then somebody can go to camp, bring their bicycle back, stick the chariot on, put you in the chariot, and take you off. I mean, people are not going to lose their Burning Man experience if they're
Yeah.
out. A lot of them will not give up and go home. They will stay. They're going to
Wow.
be there till the man burns. There's no question. Or they have a tribute that they want to take to the temple, and they're not going to pass up the opportunity to do that.
Wow. And then they return the stuff afterwards? Like,
We get returns on the wheelchairs, the crutches and walkers, not so much. Knee scooters we take, but everybody that's in our camp and people that have been helped by our camp. If you see, a free box by the side of the road with a pair of crutches sticking out of it, you go over, grab them, and put them in your Burning Man pile. And when you get to the burn, you deliver them to mobility camp and you go,
oh, so
here,
you
thank
take
you.
donations then? Like,
Oh,
oh,
you betcha. And
oh,
we have a Facebook page for the camp, and of course, we encourage donations because with donations, we can. There is an ongoing fascination and love with knee scooters. The scooters you use, if you can't use one leg, you fold your leg up and put it on this little scooter and push yourself around. We always need more knee scooters, and we have a lot of the money that and donations we get are not so much for materials as to make people aware that the camp exists.
yeah. No, because that kind of brings me to another question I have is like we were discussing, like there for many people, I guess there's well all sorts of people. There's all sorts of different like barriers to entry. Like whether it's distance or time or money or ability, right?
Or age.
Or age, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of but like yeah. So how do you like in the default world and the other 51 weeks of the year, as we say, yeah, like how do you guys spread the word like about your camper that it's like, hey, it's like you too can go to Burning Man.
We we maintain our Facebook page. We on Facebook go. A lot of first time burners will go. This is the first time I've ever tried this. I'm recovering from cancer. Can anybody give me an idea or a direction to go? We go, yeah, check the folks at Burning Man at Mobility Camp and see what they've got to offer. I've done back when we used to do it in person, I've done theme camp symposiums that Burning Man offers in San Francisco, where I have my 5 minutes to stand up. And the whole concept of radical inclusion, which is one of the 10 principles of Burning Man, we're the radical inclusion folks saying, if you're going to go, that's why we love Fluffy, the big bus from Vermont, because Fluffy took the time, the people that put it together took the time ahead of time to think, what do we need to do to make it accessible? So we're constantly putting ourselves out there going, you may have heard about the sweet young things at Burning Man, and you may have heard about the techno dub music. Well, let us tell you about the disabled burners at Burning Man and what you can do to help us be there every year and provide the kind of services that we've been providing for the last 25 years. We have to tell people that we have a couple of limitations. We don't give you motorized equipment. People have wanted to come and wanted to know if they could get, the same sort of thing you ride around in Safeway in. No, we don't do that. But if you bring one, we can tell you what you can do to it to keep the dust and the playa dust out of the engine on the thing. Um, we're not a babysitting service. We cannot help you with your extremely disabled son who really likes to look at bright colors, but you're welcome to buy a ticket and bring an attendant for your son. and then you can be, part of our camp. There are people who have expected us to be a babysitting service, and it, we don't do that. But we do provide all kinds of support in advance. So you know the kinds of things you need to have with you. I mean, I joke, my classic, people go, well, what do you stay in a tent? Do you take an RV? What do you do? I use a 9-foot U-Haul cargo van, and I refer to it as the poor woman's RV, right? I put a 4-inch thick foam mattress in the bottom of it. I put sheets and blankets so I can sleep in a respectable manner. I have a little personal privacy tent with my own tiny little porto right next to me. I line the inside of the van with colorful tapestries. I am up off the ground. I have a little bit of protection from the noise, though there's not much noise in the center of camp. And it is the perfect solution. It's in excellent mechanical condition, so I know I can drive it from the California coast to Reno and back again with no problems.
That's a
And
great idea. Yeah.
it is a simple idea if you can rent a U-Haul van for a week or so and just, it's easy to drive, it's air conditioned. I mean, and it's a solution. Other people find other kinds of solution. We've got every kind of habitation in our camp that people drive in or come in on the Burner Express, with their tent and their sleeping bag. We've got a shade structure to provide the tent people with shade. But we're a camp we've got rangers in camp. Part of our camp members are also rangers. So we've worked it out over decades of experience on what to do so we can have a good time while we're there as the campers in camp, but we're providing a service to the larger Burner community and making people aware. Don't think you can't come to Burning Man because you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Contact us. We'll tell you how. When we tell you how, it may sound like way more than you want to deal with. But we have so many delightful experiences. The year we had the horrendous rains, we had one man in a motorized wheelchair, and it just so happened that there was a declivity in front of his tent, and he couldn't bring his wheelchair out of the tent because there was a standing puddle in front of his tent. But at the same time, Root Pile, which is the bluegrass camp, couldn't offer concerts because people couldn't get there slogging through the mud. So they sent troubadours out to play music for the camp and when all the camps. And when they heard we had somebody stuck in his tent, we had a 20-minute bluegrass performance right in front of this guy's tent so he could enjoy it too. And all the rest of us got to listen to wonderful music for 20 minutes. And then Root Pile wandered off to the next camp that needed some entertainment. But that kind of stuff happens all the time.
Yeah.
The year that we were next to Love and Oven, you could smell the aroma of bread baking every day. And then, like a half an hour later, here comes the folks from Love and Oven coming down to our camp with a couple of loaves of fresh bread.
They're like a bakery kind of camp, right?
Yes. Yes, there's a full-scale bakery. And almost one of the funny stories of Burning Man is they serve iced tea along with the bread that they serve. So I have a huge mint patch at my house, and I pull up a whole bunch of lemon balm mint and take it to Burning Man with me every year, wrap the roots in wet rags and all, and put a bag around it and take it to Burning Man. So we're in a golf cart. One of the members of camp is taking me to Love and Oven to deliver, and I'm holding like big brown grocery bags with green plant material all out of the top of it. And we're chugging along, and we go past a deputy sheriff who does the quickest turnaround in your life because he thought somebody was brazenly carrying weed through the middle of the and we smile sweetly at them. And of course, you're not gonna frown at a little old lady. And I smile sweetly at him and I go, "We're taking fresh mint to Love and Oven for their iced tea." And they go, "Oh."
That's awesome. Wow. Well, I imagine like if you have a bakery camp, it's like your neighbors, you have to make them happy because I mean they're going to be smelling that every day.
Oh, about 2 camps away, we had beignets from New Orleans.
Wow.
It's a good
Wow.
place. it's a good place to be. Center Camp is a good place to be because there's I very much miss the coffee at Center Camp because probably the most touching experience I ever had in my 12 years of going to Burning Man was over a cup of coffee at Center Camp. But it was much more active last year. There have been highs and lows, but it was much more active last year. I just wish if they couldn't sell coffee, maybe they could just give coffee away again, because having a cup of coffee at Burning Man at the Center Camp was always a delight.
Yeah, it's a very communal kind of thing. I mean, that's part of like, for me, it's like a central kind of thing for me. It's a kind of community and connection. It's
Well, one thing I've loved from the very start is I am a journalist by trade, along with also being a librarian. And I discovered that if I wrote a story that was published in the newspaper about Burning Man, my Burning Man ticket was a tax write-off as an expense of doing business because I couldn't write about Burning Man if I wasn't there. My tax accountant thinks this is the silliest thing in the world. She absolutely loves it. And for 12 years, my Burning Man ticket has been a write-off. But over the years, I thought this would interest you. Every year I come up with an interesting question of how to share the Burning Man experience with other people. So the first story I ever wrote was An Elder on the Playa
oh yeah, that's the one you sent
because
me.
that
Yeah, I
was
love that.
that
Yeah.
thank you. I wrote about that. I wrote about how you pull off coffee for 70,000 people. I mean, I'm over there interviewing the head of Center Camp going, what do you do for a college education that teaches you how to serve 70,000 people coffee 24 hours a day for free? Right. And he told me. I've done the Playa Pops Orchestra. You don't come to Burning Man expecting not one, not two, but three symphony orchestras playing at Burning Man, if you want to go listen to that. I went off one year on search for the oldest man I could find at Burning Man, who was 89 years old.
Oh.
Medical care at Burning Man, the whole medical care system. There's a camp called Camp Playa Apology that tells you the do's and don'ts of how to say you're sorry to somebody because you've committed a, an embarrassing situation and you want to make up for it.
Huh.
I did an article last year on the history of the trash fence. Because
Okay, we're
before
really briefly, what's the history of the trash fence?
the purpose of the trash fence is because the wind blows all the time. And the running gag was in the old days that before there was a trash fence, you could find trash from Burning Man in Oregon because it blew that far.
Wow.
Right? Oregon's only about 100 miles north. In the early years of Burning Man, you could sit there on the playa and watch those cute little umbrella tents that nobody had put anybody in the bottom of, the ones that looked like little half domes. They rolled just like tumbleweed right across the playa. Right? Till they hit the trash fence and then they stop. But in the old days, they just kept going and going and going and going and could end up in the Indian reservation to the north, could end up scattered all over the place. So the
Wow.
trash fence really does serve a purpose in the dividing line. The other one time I'm at the trash fence, there's a fully rigged Viking sailing ship on the other side of the trash fence on wheels, sailing
Okay.
across the playa, back and forth across the playa. And when they stopped, I was leaning over the fence talking to him, and I said, "Why do you have to be on the other side of the fence? The other side of the trash fence?" And they go, "We've got no brakes. We can't throw out an anchor or anything like that. We can't be inside." Another time, I was helping a group of people serve coffee and croissants on the trash fence at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and a member of my volunteer fire department in the little tiny town I live in comes walking up, and we look at each other and go, "What are you doing here?"
Don't tell anyone I'm here.
the trash fence, the trash fence has its own mystique and its own history. Of course,
Huh.
there's always been the Burning Man myth that the band Def Leppard one year was playing at the trash fence at 2 o'clock in the morning or something like
I
that.
think
Yeah,
Daft Punk.
Def Punk, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Playing on the playing at the trash fence, you
yeah.
know.
They should start a new rumor. You know, it was really Def Leppard. People,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I heard
And
people
it,
say Taylor Swift. You're like, oh
so
yeah.
one of the reasons I do the newspaper articles, I have a whole crew of people who are already contacting me going, Katy, you're going to go to Burning Man and write a story again this year, aren't you? And I said, yes. And the nicest compliment I got was somebody that said, I'll never go to Burning Man in my life. The only way I know about it is what you write in your newspaper stories. Right?
Well, has it ever enticed like people you know to actually make the trip?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But a part of it too is, people go, well, don't you see things at Burning Man that disturb you or make you uncomfortable? And I said, if I lived in a city with 70,000 people, I'd probably know that there are neighborhoods that I don't want to go into, that don't have anything I want. So I will, yes, there are things you see that make you raise your eyebrows or you don't want to look at, but they are far outnumbered by the absolutely delightful things you never expected to see in your life that are happening all around you. The Of all things, one year there was a uh what's the proper word? I guess a buggy that was being pulled by young women with horses' bits in their mouths, pulling on the spokes of the buggy and pulling people around Burning Man with a man sitting in the buggy with his little whip, with the girls. And there happened to be a bunch of old ladies behind the counter um our service area that day. And there's a young man standing in front of us, and we're just rolling our eyes, going, "Oh my God, give me a break." Women pulling men in buggies with bits in their mouth. And this young man is standing at the counter and he goes, "Can I tell you ladies something?" And we said, "Sure." And he goes, "There's women lined up 10 deep waiting for their turn to pull that buggy around with that horse bit in
Really?
their mouths." And we said, "Okay, whatever floats your boat, that's fine." No, we're not going to roll our eyebrows anymore.
Yeah. Don't yuck someone's
I
yum,
was
I
thinking,
guess. Like, yeah, yeah.
that young woman probably went home from Burning Man going, "You'll never guess what I did this year." It's and I can honestly say that too. Every year when I go home, you'll never guess what I did this year, because there's something new or something you haven't been exposed to. Last year I went to a high tea for mothers whose children brought them to Burning Man. Right.
Oh,
And it turned out there were 30 of us there with our kids, right? And we were all mothers whose children had brought them to Burning Man.
huh.
And we were inside the Volkswagen van camp and Volkswagen bus camp. There is a whole camp of nothing but people in Volkswagen buses. I never knew that before.
Wow.
But this lovely high tea with cucumber sandwiches and little cups of tea and stuff like that. And we all talked about how our kids had brought us to Burning Man. So you never know, people
Hmm.
people waving you over you're walking down and people wave you over and total strangers sit you down and have a conversation with you.
Wow.
A
Yeah,
delight.
I would love to bring my mom. She's she just turned 88, but
If she's interested, tell her what we tell everybody else. Look at Mobility Camp's page. She would not be the oldest person in camp,
yeah, yeah, that's true. So,
and
in terms
the
of
other
the articles you wrote, so what article did you write for last year?
last year's was medical care, and
Oh,
this
okay.
I've always been fascinated. I dislocated my shoulder one year. It was the first time in my life I fell over a pile of pillows in my little van.
Oh,
And first time in my life I ever remember sitting there going, "Help, help." And of course, my campmates came over, plopped me in a golf cart, took me over to Ramparts. The I had dislocated this shoulder before. The doctor that dealt with me had the shoulder back in place in probably 5 minutes. right? I've waited an hour and a half in emergency rooms, and he did it in 5 minutes.
Wow.
The doctor was from New Zealand and was Maori warrior and had full Maori face
Oh,
tattoos.
Maori. Yeah, 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 yeah.
It was the most colorful doctor I'd ever dealt with in my life, who
Huh.
was volunteering his time at Burning Man. But last year, I wanted to talk to the head honcho, and his name was George Weston. And before our interview even started, I said, Mr. Weston, Dr. Weston, I said, when I was a tiny child at Shriners Hospital for Crippled Children in Los Angeles, California, the head orthopedist was named Wilbur Weston. And George Weston looks at me and goes, that was my grandfather.
Really?
That's the kind of stuff we refer to as playa magic, and that you will make astounding discoveries that, were totally unintentional, but just delight the heck out of you. And that was one of them. Learning how coordinated the medical services are. They have radiology departments there in trailers on the playa. They have
Really?
pharmacy. They have diagnosticians. They have an amazing amount with medevac helicopters to back them up, with ambulances to back them up. And they don't like to talk about death, but there are some people that pass away every year from instances. He told me there are also people that plot their pregnancies so their babies can be born at Burning Man.
That's not a
And I
great
said,
idea.
"Oh no, no,
Yeah.
not a good idea at all."
Yeah.
But it gave me a chance. I'd be glad to send you the story. It gave
Sure.
a good look at how you provide medical services for 70,000. The other one I loved was the year a whole bunch of Army guys come walking by, and we're right at center camp. So we're looking at them and we're going, what is the Army doing? What is a contingent of Army in Army uniforms,
Really?
outdoors uniforms doing here? They were coming to look at the center camp tent. The center camp tent covers an acre. The center camp tent, for when they're conducting wars in the Middle East and they need to put up tents to house operations, they came to Burning Man to find out how to do it, because we know how to do it at Burning Man. Our tents have never blown over. Our tents have never blown down, because years ago, some clever person figured out how to do it. And here we had the US Army coming to Burning Man to find out how to put up a good tent.
Well, there's a lot of trial and error over all these years. Like, yeah, yeah. Um, well, maybe afterwards, I was wondering if maybe you could send me like some links for some of these articles. I could put them definitely in the show notes. That'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, well, a lot of them. I have a newspaper that I write for called the Anderson Valley Advertiser in Boonville, California, and I think I know they have all of them up on their website. Hopefully, I'll check. But it's a small regional newspaper, and like a lot of them, it has just gone belly up in print, but it still exists as an online publication, as a daily publication. And I know they have all of my stories. I do a printout of the stories every year, and I have bound them and keep them at the front counter for people to read. If you want to sit in the shade for a while with a glass of cold water and read about my adventures over the last 12
That's
years with Burning Man, you can do it.
that's awesome. Wow. So you wrote an article about mobility camp, or one about the oldest person on the playa, medical services at Burning Man. Like, what other articles have you written?
Lost and Found. Lost and Found is a fun one. What goes on in Lost and Found is truly amazing, especially when people are stopping at night when they've had a few too many to get a glass of it. In Root Pile's case, it was moonshine. I remember that. And you leave your ID on the counter and you wander off with your glass of refreshment. And the next day you're going, oh my God, I lost my driver's license.
Yeah.
Those
Wow.
are the people that are lost and found. Before it was illegal, people flying drones and losing their drones at Burning Man. But the whole process of reuniting people with the stuff that they lost, one way or the other.
Oh,
The the Playa Pops Orchestra. I spent a whole day hanging out with the Playa Pops Orchestra, finding out how you coordinate cellists and trumpet players and pianists and drummers and flute players into a symphony orchestra to play on the playa. And there's at least three of them now because there's the Black Rock Philharmonica, there's Black Rock, um, there's the Black Rock Philharmonic. Yeah, I can't think of the other one,
that's okay.
and the Playa Pop. But
Well, you
but
got to leave a little bit of mystery so people can go
oh,
like read your article. Like,
The
yeah,
Black Hawk Symphony was the other one I was
yeah.
thinking of. But all of these people are doing performances all over at the temple, at center camp, in different places that are big enough because when these people play, hundreds of people turn up. And I think one of the delights in Burning Man is the variety of music you can find.
It's not
Yes,
just a big rave like a lot of people think.
no, if you want New Orleans music, I they one year was the anniversary of a Grateful Dead concert, and that had happened that exact same day, like August 28th or whatever. So somebody had a sound tape of it and was playing it in their camp. And a whole bunch of old people showed up, but I had never watched young people hula hoop to Grateful Dead music before. I mean, that was a new first. I've seen people dance to Grateful Dead music, but to consistently and very powerfully hula hoop through an entire Burning Man music or an entire Grateful Dead
Huh.
concert.
So, what do you think you might write about this year?
I don't know. I am tempted. The airport has always fascinated me. I have been given the opportunity. The airport actually does sightseeing flights for free in the morning. I hope I'm not giving out any secrets. But at the crack of dawn, some of the pilots will offer free. It's only one loop over the Black Rock City, but to see Black Rock City from the air. So I think this year I would like to go and see how they started from just people, you know, falling out of the sky and skidding across the playa and stopping, and then turning around and taking back off again to an extremely coordinated, I mean, following every FAA regulation
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you can, while the Burner Express will bring you by bus from the Reno airport to Burning Man. You can also fly in. It costs a bloody fortune.
Yeah, yeah, I looked into that. I was
But
like,
if you're cramped for time or whatever, you can fly in. They do the medevac uh, people that have to be taken off the playa go through there.
oh,
I
really?
loved the pilot we had the year that we were flying around. At the same time, the hang gliding people were um, being and parachute people. There was parachute people that morning, I guess, were being dropped off, and people were You can get into Burning Man for free if you parachute in. According
I don't know. I was told that like if you land with a parachute, you have to have your ticket on you.
I don't know. Well, this may be old tale, but we're watching them come down through the sky, and the pilot's looking at them, and he goes, "You know what the other pilots call those people?" And we said, "What?" And he goes, "Meatballs." And, and he said, "And if they have flares on their ankles, they're flaming meatballs."
Wow. So to really research your article, I think you're going to have to do a skydive.
No, not at 77. I'm already a gimp. I'm not going to.
You don't want to be a meatball?
No, no meatballs.
No meatball.
But I have, I've done it. I've done the early morning flight once, but I usually stay in camp and let the people who've never had the experience go
Hmm.
up and have that experience of seeing Burning Man from the air. And it's been a challenge when we've had people that have been in wheelchairs and have, heavy, heavy limits to what they can do to figure out if there's some way that we can find a pilot that can get them up in the air for the experience. But that's the kind of challenge we love to do.
Yeah. Wow, it's incredible. All right. So how about you? Where did it all begin? Where did little baby Katie like grow up? What's your
I
story
was
before
I was
Burning Man?
I was born after World War II in what traditionally was called a crippled child. We don't use terminology like that. But I was very lucky to find my way into Shriners Hospital for Crippled Children as a child. Now it's Shriners Hospital for Children. And they're the group that is dedicated to handling kids with weird orthopedic problems. And I had weird orthopedic problems.
Oh,
And I think almost, what I learned there has stayed with me all my life in that you should never feel sorry for yourself because there's always somebody worse off than you are, right? And so I dealt with my disabilities as a college student. I worked in a summer camp for crippled children. Again, and many of us on the staff had disabilities at that summer camp to show kids that um, you know, if somebody says you can't do that and you think you can, pursue the idea. Do it.
yeah.
I found a career for myself being a librarian where I didn't have to be up on my feet all the time. Married, had children, but always from the time I found Mobility Camp in 2012, it was like finding a second family of people that all of us that are there have dealt with disability one way or the other. One of my favorite fellow campers was a medic during the Vietnam War. And it likes helping people. That's what he does, right? But we've had, I've been very lucky in that I've never wallowed in self-pity or anything like that. My standard response to everybody is, what can I do to help you? So that's the kind of mental and attitude to keep. And boy, at Burning Man, we found lots of ways to help people.
So yeah, so what's it all mean to you? Like, I mean, what's the impact of Burning Man in your life? Like,
Um,
what gets you to come back?
Curiosity. I think I've always been a very curious person, and I swear on my headstone, I want four words on my headstone other than, birth date, death, so on and so forth. I want the words earth abides because I am a rock hound and I have an eternal appreciation for the gorgeous stuff Mother Earth can do, from the Grand Canyon to a opal from Virgin Valley, which is just north of Burning Man, where you can find black opals. I mean, Earth abides. And the other thing I want on my gravestone is stay curious. And I think that's, I just looked at the preview on the Burning Man website of what the art is going to look like this year and look at it and go, oh my God, I'm already working on the list of things that I want to see when I'm at Burning Man this year. And of course, you never get to all of them and you never can find all of them. But, the
Huh.
challenge is there one way or the other. And just the delight I find year after year, I think, oh, it's going to be too hot. Oh, it could rain again. Oh, this and that. No, seeing the sun come up over the playa at dawn. It's listening to 70,000 people when the sun goes down at night, just as it goes down over the hills to the west. Everybody howls like coyotes.
The
Right.
primal scream, yeah.
And there's like nothing like 70,000 people howling like coyotes. The other thing that I think that touches me every year is the tributes in the temple to people who have been lost to you in the last year. First year I went to Burning Man, I read this one, the first tribute I ever read was this lovingly written piece, and the guy was writing about his friend Henry and all the adventures that he and Henry had together, and that he and Henry had 10 good years where they kept each other company. And there was always somebody that if you needed to talk to, there was always somebody to talk to. And you get to the end and you discover he has written this tribute to his pet turtle. Not
Well,
another human being. The tributes to other human beings will reduce anyone to tears.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you cannot go into the temple and not be moved. But as I have lost people in my life, I take quite delight in the tribute that I take to the temple, in their memories. And, you know, people people's way with words and people's touching thoughts about other people, their families, their friends, and stuff like that. It's just truly amazing. The temple is always amazing.
Hmm. Uh, so one other question I remember I was thinking about, like going back to like mobility camp, was like people with mobility issues, like yeah, well, how do they get to the playa? And then, like, like, are they, like, RV or where, or tent? Like, how do people, like, or what type of
Well,
housing do people usually have? Because I imagine, like, if you're taking the Burner Express, like, bus, I mean, I mean, if you're in a wheelchair, I mean, like, I don't know, it must be hard to get on the bus. And then, like, if you're in an RV, like, I
well,
mean,
given the spirit of Burning Man, if you showed up at the Reno airport, got to the boarding area where your wheelchair has to be folded up after you get in the bus, the new friends that you have just made while you've been sitting in the waiting area are going to help you get on the bus, are going to fold up your wheelchair and make sure the buses carry little storage trailers behind them. When you get to camp, if you're a clear thinking person, you have made arrangements for somebody from mobility camp with a vehicle to be waiting for you when the Burner Express comes in, so your wheelchair does not need to be pushed a mile through Black Rock City in the dust
yeah, that
to
was going to be the other question. Yeah, like, how do you
get
get?
to where you're going. Uh,
Yeah,
if you're in a motorized, I don't know if Burner Express would take a motorized wheelchair, but I know they will take regular wheelchairs. If you know, lots of people have RVs or turn to RVs. But there are people in our camp who come in a Subaru station wagon, right? And they lift the tailgate and they mount their tent off the back of it, and they've got their ice chest with their food because the only things available at Burning Man that you can buy is ice. So you better know how your food is going to go. We
hmm
we have one potluck in our camp and we have an indoor dining area, but we realized years ago that so many people have so many different diets that we weren't going to be doing a regular food service program. But you could go out, there are pages in the guide to Burning Man where you can just go out, find the booth that's making pizza, find the booth that's serving breakfast
yeah,
cereal.
yeah. I call it foraging for food. Yeah,
Oh yeah, foraging. I mean, you could literally, eat your way through Burning Man. You do need to have your water though. That's
yeah, yeah,
important one way or the other. We've got people in like that in RVs. We've got people in vans like I am. We've got people camping in their cars. You can arrange with Burning Man if you're a diehard and you come every year to have your stuff stored in Reno and delivered to the playa. So while you come in on the Burning Man Express, waiting for you in the campsite is your 2 tubs of gear or whatever it is that you have had stored for a year. So your tent is already there, and 3 changes of clothes and your sparkly jacket and your spare flashlight or whatever, and you just come in with your food.
and that's specifically for like mobility camp, though, right?
No, this kind of thing exists all over the playa. The outside services that
Really?
can provide storage for your gear while you're gone, out in the default world, and your stuff is waiting for you when you get there.
Huh? I didn't realize that. Oh,
We've ordinarily had a storage unit for the camp in Fernley, but this is the first year that we have experimented with basically the equivalent of a small cargo trailer is dropped off. We put all of the stuff that makes our camp, the sunshade stuff and the tables and the chairs and the leftover wheelchairs and the leftover crutches and the kitchen stuff and things like that. We this year, when we arrive at camp, the trailer will be in our campsite waiting for us. And we
hmm.
unload, we put our camp together during build week. When the thing is over, we fold down our camp and we put it back in the trailer, which is magically taken off, stored someplace, and brought back next year.
Now you're talking
Yes,
about like the shipping container thing, because I know that they do
not
that.
as big as a shipping container. I think ours is like 8 by 12 feet.
Huh?
You know,
I've never heard of that. Like, but and that's not specifically just for mobility camp. They do like for anyone can do that.
Oh, I believe this polite title is outside services for uh,
Hmm.
arranging for things to arranging for things to be delivered to the playa. And of course, you pay a hefty price for it. But given the fact that mobility camp is a lot of old people, loading and reloading storage units is not real high on our list of priorities. In fact, my son came for the first time. I sweet talked him into it because we needed some young, brawny, some brawny young men to help us
Yeah.
when it came time to move everything. Well, this year we don't have to move everything this year. It's right
Ah.
there delivered to us. And I know this goes on with other camps all over. Refinements every year, it seems, in the ways to get your stuff on and off the playa.
That kind of brings me to another question I had about mobility camp. Um, how many people with mobility issues just come by themselves, or or I mean, I would imagine
If
maybe people
you
come with like a more able-bodied person to help them.
Depends on the extent of your disability. For I'm thinking of a college professor that we had who was a quadriplegic on a respirator. He came with two attendants. So the attendant that was with him had the took care of him while the other attendant went out and partied. Then they swapped places, but there was always somebody with the person. We had we had a guy come one year from Germany, quadriplegic, who raced Formula One race cars with mouth controls.
What?
And he
Now
never
that's the
been
most interesting man in the world, right there.
but
Yeah,
he came with he had rented an RV. He had paid people to make the ramp that went along the side of the RV to get him in. He had checked ahead of time to make sure that the interior path of the RV was wheelchair accessible. He came with two or three people, I believe. But people, if they
yeah.
want to come
Wow.
to Burning Man bad enough, they will do it. A lot of us, in my case, in the years my daughter wasn't able to come, I went to the ride share board that Burning Man does, where there are people that are looking for a ride to Burning Man, and arranged to meet up with people who shared the driving responsibilities for me from the California coast and back again. So I didn't have to drive myself, though I've done it by myself, and I'm an independent, ornery old lady, and I'm perfectly happy to do it by myself if I need to. But and there were a lot of families. A lot of times there are three generations of family in our camp. We've had that more than once. We've had grandma, we've had the daughter, and we've had the grandson in camp together. And everybody's taking care of everybody else. But our camp is the sort of thing like that if you need help with anything, you turn around to the first able-bodied person that's walking by and you go, "Hi, will you give me a hand with this?" And I don't think I have ever asked at Burning Man for help and not gotten it immediately. And one day it was a really hot day. It was like 100 degrees out. And I'm walking across Center Camp Plaza. I was headed over to the media mecca, the media center. And I was so hot that the sweat was running down my forehead and dripping off the end of my nose. And a young man who probably had too much of something comes wandering up to me and he looks at me and he goes, "Grandma, what are you doing out here?" And I said, "The same thing as you, having the time of my life." And he said, "Oh," he wondered us.
That's awesome.
No, that's what I say when people say, "What are you doing out here?" "I'm having a good time. Thank you. I hope you are too."
That's
I
incredible.
think the most common thing you hear is having a good burn as a question.
So if let's see. Well, yeah, if anybody wants to like find out more about mobility camp or if people want to like donate or I don't know, do you guys do like take like donations like a GoFundMe thing like or anything like that or
We don't do GoFundMe, but everything you could want to know about us is on our Facebook page, or if you Google Burning Man Mobility Camp.
hmm.
Uh, you'll even see me waving at you in one of those pictures. But
What's
it's gonna,
what's the name of your Facebook page? Is it
I didn't write it down in front of me, but it's Mobility Camp Burning Man,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
or Burning Man Mobility Camp, one way or the other. but yes, we welcome donations. We are a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. We are a proper nonprofit. Um,
Oh.
because I happen to be on the board of it, so I know that. I just didn't think to have these things at my fingertips today.
Oh, you can email me some stuff later, like
Yeah,
but I was just wondering, like, I mean, do you guys have like a website or is it just the Facebook page?
I believe we have a website. You are talking to a computer nerd, a techno nerd. I'm lucky I got I'm lucky the computer gods cooperated for this interview. But if you Google Burning Man and Mobility Camp, we will pop up in one form or
Okay.
another
Yeah,
from.
I'll put it in the show notes. I'll
Okay,
look
and
at it.
I will send you more exact information at the end. And the other thing I would say is I will give you my email, and people are welcome to contact me
Oh yeah,
personally.
that was my next question. Like if anyone wants to reach you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, you can either tell me now or you can send it to me later.
I'll send it to you with the
Okay.
link to the stories about Burning Man.
Oh yeah, 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 definitely. Okay, I'm just writing a note. All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been an amazing, wonderful interview, and I hope like more people can learn about this, and people out there will be like, oh, if a quadriplegic from Germany like can
Race
make
is
it to
Formula
Burning
One.
Man, yeah, I'm just wondering like how that conversation goes. Like if someone like the professor, is it them like they kind of talking to their caregiver and just like I've heard of this Burning Man thing and I want to go. They're like,
If
what?
you if you have enough money in your life, this if I remember correctly, this man was a computer in high up in the computer world, information science world. Um, but to his credit, he did every bit of advanced planning that you could do. So he knew that when he got to the playa, he would have everything he needs. And a lot of times this involves big bucks. But I can remember demonstrating, asking women back when we still wore them to bring pantyhose to Burning Man. Because if you wrap the air filter in your golf cart or you wrap the engine mechanism in your motorized wheelchair, the playa dust sticks to the pantyhose and
Really?
does not stick to the engine unit that you are relying on to keep you from having a disaster one way or the other. And I can remember
Ah.
lining air filters with pantyhose for different vehicles we were using. So sometimes it doesn't need to be super fancy things that you have to do to be able to come to Burning Man. A lot of times it's knowing what the limitations, knowing to bring an extra air filter for your golf cart, or the things that you could need in there. And we have techie people who have been doing it far longer than my time since my prior to my 13 years that have been doing it that can tell you all the clues of what you do, tell you what to do to make it easy for yourself. I'm a big fan of really simple things. I tell everybody you will never believe the value of apple cider vinegar until you get to Burning Man. And people look at me and go, what the hell are you going to do with vinegar? And I said, you're going to mix it half and half with water, and you're going to put it in a tiny little spray bottle. And you have been in an alkaline environment all day long with playa dust that will parch your skin and your feet until you think you're going to flake up and dry away and fly away. And at the end of the evening, when you've washed yourself off, you take your little spray bottle and you spray the vinegar and water combination, and it restores the chemical balance on your skin, and you don't dry up and flake away. And people go, really? And I go, yeah, really.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful interview. I'm sure everyone's gonna love it. And it's like, yeah, I've actually learned a lot here today.
Well, Andy, when you have it all put together, will you kindly send me the link information
Oh,
that
of
I'm going to
course.
send to our person who takes care of our Burning Man pages, so we can link to your operation too, because we always love the opportunity to spread the word. And I know you're not coming this year, but if you come next year, I expect to see you there.
Oh, of course. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Andy.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe, rate, and review it on Apple Podcasts. It just helps to get this show seen. Please tell a friend and help to spread the word. If there's enough support, we can do a lot more of these shows and publish more shows per month. If you would like to contact us about being a guest, what you think about the show, or whatever, please send an email to shadowofthemanpodcast, that's all one word, at gmail.com. You can also follow Shadow of the Man on social media on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. The links for these pages are all available on the front page of shadowoftheman, all one word, .com. See you next month for a new episode of The Shadow of the Man.
Thank you for listening to this latest show. We have to make another one, so gotta go. Don't worry, for next month we already have one in the can. Very soon you'll be listening to a new Shadow of the Man.